What is up, my friends? It is Sunday night, so late night agenda. As always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Tonight, I'm really going to try and just listen to what you guys have to say because everybody knows my thoughts. I've shared them in videos, I've shared them on streams. Tonight, I wanted to open up the floor for everybody to just get it off your chest. However you feel this situation needs to be resolved. I'm not here to judge you tonight. I'm here to listen and try and figure this out together. For what it's worth, like I said in the video earlier on, it's a situation that I've not encountered making content yet as a Liverpool fan to actually think about a manager's future. I fully understand, of course, that there are people who think it's way too early to be discussing that. And of course, I understand the other side of it as well. There are people who think now is the time. For what it's worth, as I mentioned earlier on, I think the next 3-4 games are going to have a big part to play. We've got a cup game on Wednesday against Crystal Palace. And look, at the best of times, we're a bit nonplussed with the League Cup, so I'm not really going to use that as a yardstick to measure, but I am going to talk about the game coming up against Aston Villa, Real Madrid and Manchester City. I feel those three games could really decide the future of our season, of course, and Arne Slot's reign as Liverpool manager. I also want to make something really clear at the start. I want him to succeed. You want him to succeed. But at what point do we start burying our heads in the sand and, denying the obvious? Because right now, as a Liverpool fan, I'm not seeing progression. I'm not seeing a team that are stuttering because of new players. I'm seeing a team that's devoid of confidence, a team that's devoid of a game plan, and a bunch of players that have never hidden, have always stood up to be counted, but for whatever reason right now, just look confused and lost out there on the pitch. So like I said, it's not me here to take cheap shots tonight. It's me here to listen, and I do appreciate you taking the time to come in and join me. It's going to be an emotional one, of course. Liverpool fans are going to have different opinions on this. Some are going to think we're all losing their mind, even having a conversation about his future, and some might want him gone right now. But between us, I'm hoping that we can at least come to a consensus tonight and see how we're all feeling. There are, of course, extenuating circumstances to this season. We have a lot of change of personnel. We had the tragic loss of Diogo Jota. But, excuses are just that as well. Excuses. Because when we'd won the first 5-6 games, nobody was talking about these things as an excuse. Now, yeah, they're being bandied out as excuses. And I'm not a big believer in excuses. I'm a big believer in accountability. So, for me, it comes down to two things. We have standards or we don't have standards. And it's not my place to say whether FSG push the button, whether they panic, whether they see this out. But it is almost inexcusable to me with the collection of footballers that we have that we could be looking at losing 5 of the last 6 games. It's just not good enough. At JG Ori711 said, "Hi Craig, hope you're well. Doesn't Slot stick with the 4-4-2 and 3-5-2 like he did Wednesday? I think Iriola if he goes with Hughes's connection." So still, to be honest, I haven't really thought about a replacement yet because I'm still at that point of thinking about solutions. But you cannot keep doing the same stuff day in, day out, week in, week out, and expect things to change. What worries me the most, JG, is I'm not seeing any signs of progress. And my manager, your manager, our manager, is sounding very defeatist, talking about not having an answer to long throw-ins and set pieces, teams knowing how to get at us. I mean, I don't want to hear these things publicly. I want to hear we're going to be putting these things right. I want to hear that it's not acceptable. And again, see Virgil come out and talk about fans saying, get behind us. That's fair enough, Virgil. But like the Echo wrote yesterday, the fans were singing Salah's name right through that game. The fans were down in Brentford supporting. And as much as they can do. But how long you are willing to wait, how long you feel this goes on, again, like I said, it's a personal preference. Could we get Rafa back? Well, firstly, I don't think I want Rafa back near the club, to be honest. Secondly, he's just become Panathinaikos manager in the last week, so that one would be a no, Ian. And appreciate you being with us as a member, mate, for as long as you have. But yeah, Rafa just took a new job as well, but I don't think he'd be a good fit. And like I said, I'm not at the point yet, mate, to even talk about replacements because I still think there's more to come from this team. But at some point, we do have to say, are we just chasing our tail here? Is there any signs of the improvement? Has the dressing room been lost? We've never had to have a conversation about the players, not responding to the manager or the dressing room being lost because no dressing room was lost under Jurgen. And I'm trying to figure out if it is. It just looks like they don't know what they're doing out there. And that, to me, comes down to the manager. But, of course, the players are underperforming as well. Martin, Lawrence, how are we, dude? Slot and senior players let the standard slip after the league was won last year and doesn't look like he can get them back. So, look, I keep banging on about this, mate, but I said that at the end of last season, and a lot of people jumped down my throat to tell me to shut up, to tell me to relax, the league was won. But I've been around football long enough to know you just can't switch these things on and off. Whether it's in a team, a dressing room yourself, whether it's watching your team playing. We won the league, we celebrated it rightly, but it is difficult to then get back. We were maybe lulled into a false sense of security at the start of this season because we were perfect for the opening games. But even at that, I feel most Liverpool fans were honest enough to think we're winning these games, but we're not playing well. And there was always a dread or a sense that maybe these things come back to bite us in the backside as the season goes on. Now, even allowing for all that, I'd be a liar, dude, if I sat here and told you I expected the fall off to be this dramatic. This just looks worrying. Very, very worrying. Mark Best said, do Liverpool have money for new players? Yes, the money's available. The wiggle room is there with PSR. But honestly, mate, I don't know if spending money on players is going to solve it. Now, of course, we need a centre-back. But I think this isn't a lack of available players. This is just a lack of belief within the team and a system that I still can't explain. And I challenged people earlier on in the video to say, look, if you know what way Liverpool are trying to play, please explain it to me. Because I really just don't see it. I see that same nervousness every time we concede a set piece. I see the same slowness of moving the ball through the lines. And it just looks like whatever Arne is trying to do, the personnel aren't responding to it or incapable of playing it. But like I said, I'm just a fan. I'm not a coach. I'm not a manager. But I know a beaten team when I see it. And this team just doesn't look like it has that belief anymore. Ashley Dooley said, a few weeks ago we were first and now we're seventh and we're behind United. It's embarrassing. So we're going from first by 5 points from Arsenal into 7 points, Ashley, behind Arsenal, as you pointed out, mate, over the course of a month or so. That's not a blip in form. That's a collapse. And at what point do you have to start concerning yourself with Champions League football? Now, there's a huge part of me, Ashley, that believes that this team is too good to continue on in this vein of form. That the players that are there are too good. But how many times over the years have we sat here and spoken about Liverpool punching above their weight because they're a team? They're greater than the sum of their parts. Under Jurgen Klopp in particular, it was 11 players out there pulling in the same direction. At the moment, it doesn't look like that. It looks like some individuals who are talented, but there isn't a buy-in to the system and there isn't a belief that we'll be able to put things right. Respectfully, we should be going to Brentford and licking our lips at that game. They are going to be a tough physical side, but we have the talent to beat them. And we just were second best all over the park yesterday. Brentford fully deserved their win. And again, we just look so easy to get at when we turn over possession. No matter what game you look at this year, look at how many goals we've conceded. We just turn over possession way too cheaply. And when we do, we're too easy to be gotten at. So many chances given up from just giving the ball away in midfield or in the final third. Martin said, the minute we went behind yesterday, you can see the confidence drained from the players. It's hard to see how they can improve if that's the case. Daniel Bell said, I used to think we were great defending. Now I can't believe we're leaking so many goals. What's the point in having meetings if nothing changes? Exactly. But look, it's also when one thing starts to unravel at times, often many things start to unravel. And that's when you really do need your leaders. If we look at our team, how many international captains do we have there? We've got Robbo, we've got Virgil, we've got Dom. Looking back to the rest of the team, there's probably a couple more in there that I'm not even thinking of. But we have high caliber leaders out there, and they're not leading. And everybody looks like they're feeling sorry for themselves. The only person that I actually felt spoke honestly was Andy Robertson. And I really appreciated Robbo's comments after the game because he said it as it was. It's not good enough. And the standards just aren't there. Old Gamer 53 said he hasn't got a plan B. It pisses me off. Every game you see the other team will always score. So there's a couple of stats on this that I wanted to talk about to kind of play into what you said, Old Gamer. So Liverpool now have conceded in the opening 15 minutes of 4 consecutive Premier League games. Let that sink in. When we're a team that know we have problems defending and know we're going behind a lot, we're still conceding. First 15 minutes of 4 games in a row. 4 in a row. One of them being at home to United, which was 62 seconds. That's the first time it's happened since 1996. Only 5 top flight teams have conceded more goals this season than Liverpool. Think about that. In a 20-team league, of which we want to think of ourselves as title challengers, there's only 5 teams have conceded more goals than us. We've conceded 14 goals in the league in 9 games. That's 1.5 per game. It's absolutely unacceptable. And another stat is it wasn't until 16 games in last season that we conceded that many goals. So we've done it 7 games less to concede this many goals. And you look at Arsenal, what if they conceded 3-4 in the league? You know, defences are going to win you a title. Now, one good stat yesterday, I guess, for Mohamed Salah is Mohamed Salah now has the record for the most goal contributions for a single Premier League club with 277. Goes past Wayne Rooney, who had 276 between goals and assists. So congratulations to Mo on that. But honestly, that's about the end of the positivity from what we seen yesterday. JGRE7, is it 1-1 or 7LI? Said, I don't think Slot knows how to play high-intensity, fast-playing football. He doesn't realise you can do that and control the game. So, you know, it feels like a halfway house. And I keep saying the same thing because what is it we're trying to do? And you're right. He doesn't seem to understand what he's trying to do. Well, he might have an idea of what he's trying to do, but it's not being borne out there on the pitch. And we don't look like we have an understanding of what we want to do out there. And it's really concerning when your manager openly comes out and says, we don't know. We don't know how to deal with long throw-ins. We don't know how to deal with a low block. Well, here's why I become really pissed off when I hear him talking about a low block. Let's go back to the stat I mentioned a moment ago. We conceded 4 goals in the first 15 minutes. Or excuse me, we conceded a goal in the first 15 minutes in 4 games in a row. And our manager has the cheek to talk about a low block. If a team goes 1-0 up, they've every right to defend however the hell they want to try and get the result. But here's the trick. Don't let them go 1-0 up, Arne, because then they're building confidence. So it seems to be a shock to us that teams are starting fast against us. And this is something that we spoke about even in our title-winning season last year, that we weren't starting games fast enough. How many times were we winning games in the second half last season? We are so lethargic from the first whistle that it's embarrassing at this point. Now look, cards on the table. I'm not really sure how we'll feel if we lose on Wednesday because, like I said, when you've got an all-Premier League, League Cup game, it's kind of a bit of a roll of the dice how strong the manager goes anyway. But between the Aston Villa game, Manchester City and Real Madrid, if he loses 2 of those 3 games, I'm going to be at a point where, unless we're very unlucky and we're seeing progress, that I'm going to be saying I think it's time. And I didn't really want to commit to anything yesterday because I wanted to sleep on it and I wanted to give everybody a chance to vent in the match reaction and the videos afterwards. But I'm just really at a loss now to figure out how he can stop this rot and turn it around. Because even the players he brought in the summer, fair enough, you can say that they take time to settle, and that's okay. But not one of them outside of maybe Ekitike looks like they're anywhere close. It's just so concerning, and it's really, really difficult to try and put a positive slant on it without being delusional. Shay Anstulla said, if you remember, Craig, he laughed when the media asked Arne about leaking goals in pre-season, and he said that's your style of play. Not laughing now. I see. Whatever our style of play is, dude, I don't know what it is. I just don't know. And it kills me to come on here and be negative about a manager that won the league. Like, it really does. I know people think of me as this angry, ranting lunatic, but I promise you, I do think deeply about these things. And I just can't see a logical reason for believing. I can't. Like, if we were playing a new system and the errors in playing that new system were what was causing us to concede or lose games, and you could see that there was a pattern that we were trying to play, and that you think, okay, when this clicks, it will become better. I'm not seeing that. I'm just seeing a team that's going out there and doing the same things and making the same mistakes with no real identity. And the really annoying thing for me is the lack of intensity in our play. The lack of intensity in our defending. I mean, look at the teams that play against us. Arne talks about a low block, but the amount of times teams are defending with their bodies on the line, throwing themselves to block shots. Our centre-backs aren't doing that. They're too cool to do that. They're too busy putting hands on people. They're too busy having physical battles with people. I want them getting stuck in. I want them leading from the front. We shouldn't be conceding goals from set pieces that easily when we have two huge centre-backs there and a monster of a goalkeeper as well. It's just all too easy for teams. Every second ball, every duel, it looks like we're going to lose. Salah scored a world-class goal yesterday. He did, absolutely. But let's be fair about it. He was shit. And he wasn't the only one. But his goal was really, really good. And I take on board what you say. But there isn't a scapegoat for this. And I never like when there is a one-person scapegoat. Of course, when Mohamed Salah's goals have dried up, he's the name that's going to come to people's attention. But if you're looking for honesty from me on a scapegoat, I'm more looking towards the captain at the minute than I am about our forwards. Because again, let's look back through the games. We've scored plenty of goals. Whether it's been Mohamed Salah or not, we've created chances and we've scored goals. But we're conceding far too many. First 3 games or so, we conceded 2 goals. I think it was 3 or 4 in a row if you include the last pre-season game of the Community Shield. We've conceded 2. So the onus can't always be on the forwards to bail us out. So I do have some sympathies for the front line. But in another way, I guess you could argue that we defend from the front and we have to, and we're not doing that either. There's not enough of a press from our players. There's not enough tracking back from some of the forwards. How strong does Slot need to go Wednesday? We can't afford another loss. I really don't know. Like I said, at the best of times, it's difficult to try to figure out what to do in an all-Premier League early round League Cup game. But I've had a stab at doing a predicted 11, and I'm going to release the video. I think it's going to come out on Tuesday morning. But I've tried to mix it up as much as I can. I don't know how everybody else feels about Wednesday. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be the make or break for me, one way or the other. Of course, I'd like us to win the game, especially because we're at home and it's a cup competition. But I'm more focused on Aston Villa, Real Madrid and Manchester City. Because Villa beat City today. So that keeps us kind of in touching distance. But to go from 1st to 7th in a matter of weeks, it's just not good enough. Bournemouth and Sunderland need massive praise, said the legend. Yes, certainly do. Bournemouth have been magnificent this season, even after losing the players that they have in Huijsen, in Kirkes, in Utara. They've been really good. Whereas we went out and spent close to £500 million and have somehow gone very backwards. I want to give Brentford the credit as well yesterday. They wanted it more. They fought harder. They were well coached. And, often we're looking inwardly as Liverpool fans and we talk about what we did or didn't do, but credit to our opponents as well. Mohammed said, do you remember how good Maka was last season at getting stuck in? Can't see that from him or most of our players this season. No fight. You're not wrong. The fight part, Mohammed, I would say we could extend that right throughout the team, because Maka, we knew coming into the season, was playing catch-up somewhat. And the only players I think really in midfield that can hold their hands up this season, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and probably Jones, that have done well for us. I don't even know where we'd be without the likes of Szoboszlai at this moment in time, whether he's filling in at right back, central midfield. I mean, he's shown more leadership out there on the pitch for me than our captain is. And I really get wound up when I hear Virgil talking about the fans. It just does not sit well with me, because it's not the fans' problem to turn this around. Fans are being supportive, and there's always going to be fans online. There's always going to be fans who are more outspoken on these things. But what do you really expect? Because we hear about standards all the time. Virgil talks about it. We talk about what those standards being held on the training ground all the time, and that this is Liverpool Football Club and those standards need to be maintained until they aren't, and then there's excuses. And then you've got people like me coming out and saying winning's important, and other people will come out with the "where's the whole you'll never walk alone" stuff. See, the "you never walk alone" stuff as a fan really annoys me when people throw that at you, because this is Liverpool Football Club. Liverpool Football Club exists to win trophies. Liverpool Football Club didn't become the most successful team in English football history by being soft touches. So yes, I understand the "you'll never walk alone" posts from people, but to be fair, I think people are being as supportive as they can with what they're seeing. Aaron Pickard said, in the US we have a saying, "that dog won't hunt." Not sure how you fix that. I agree. Because I don't think it's a personnel thing. We were all saying drop Salah or put this guy in here. I really think it's more of a system thing and a coaching thing than a personnel thing at this point. Now look, all of them kind of go hand in hand to a certain extent as well. But really, truly, this feels more on the manager, for me, than the players. Although the players are certainly underperforming. Hi Guy 181 said FSG gives Slot so much time as Amram at United. So I'm glad you brought up Amram there, because remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, United and Amram were a laughing stock, and we were all asking when he's going to get sacked. Now we're below them. Why is the same conversation not applicable to us? Is it because we won the league last year? If so, fair enough, but that's last year. That's before £450 million worth of new talent was brought in and players were sold. So if we're going to hold standards for other managers, why aren't we holding the same standards for us? That's my argument here. If Amram was being laughed at far and wide by so many because the system wasn't working, the players weren't buying in, he's turned it around a bit. He's found somewhat of an answer, and we're now below them. Below Manchester United, the team that was a laughing stock. We're below. And yet we're supposed to be just okay with this and not question what's happening. Here's my take, said Mohammed. And thank you, bro. Said, we're struggling without Trent's creativity. Two, most of your midfielders are 10s and they're playing in different positions. Need another 6 to carry with Grav. For the love of God, bench Gakpo. Stop running. Or ruining, is that? Rio. So, on Rio, Mohammed, let me start with that if I may. On Rio, what really pissed me off, dude, was we went over to Frankfurt midweek and we played them off the park, and that was a perfect chance to give Rio 15-20 minutes. But he doesn't. What does he do? He brings the young kid on, again, away against Brentford when we're in the shit, and dents his confidence. Because he's not going to take much confidence from that, is he? But let's say he came on against Frankfurt. Who's to say he wouldn't have had a moment? Who's to say he wouldn't have assisted or scored a goal? But throwing him in at a desperation is just that, desperation. So I don't like the management of Rio. I don't like the ignoring of Federico Chiesa for a starting position. And I don't like that the manager's not being questioned more on that. And you're right about our midfielders. If we're talking about the quality of our midfielders, well, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai should be the first names on the team sheet at the minute. Maka, I don't know what's going on there. And Curtis Jones needs his flowers because he's really stepped up. But unfortunately for Curtis Jones, he stepped up at a time where the team is failing overall. So we ran multiple polls across multiple platforms over the last 24 hours, And every single one of the polls, and of course different numbers for different platforms, every single one of them leaned towards out or close to out for Arne Slot. We did it on X, we did it on WhatsApp, and we did it on here last night. Now, I expected the one on here last night to be wider because of the frustration we all felt at the end of the game. But even the one on our WhatsApp group, there is actually more in than out, and that one particular answer, but leaning out is the most answered one. And that's where most Liverpool fans that I've spoken to seem to be. And nobody wants to be there. I don't know any Liverpool fan has taken any type of positivity or any type of happiness from moaning about this. We don't want this to be the case, but we can't bury our heads in the sand. If Slot is sacked, talent spotters should follow. I don't really know what you mean by that, Liam. If we look at the players we've brought in, I really don't have too many complaints about the signings that we've made. Wirtz still stand over, will be a great player. Isak was always going to take time. Ekitike has hit the ground running. And it's the two fullbacks that are probably the biggest question marks at the minute, for different reasons. Frimpong, because I really don't know if the manager knows what position to play him in, whether he is a winger, whether he is a right back. And Kirkes just looks very rash at the minute and can't seem to stop picking up yellow cards in the first half of games. So there's a lot to unpack there. But we didn't bring in a centre-back, and now we have no standard bearers at centre-back because our captain and Ibu are all over the shop and are being bullied. Ask yourself, how many times have you seen these guys just push into the back of a player when they're shooting rather than actually trying to make a challenge or actually trying to get out there in front? It's just vibes and lazy defending, and it's just inexcusable at any level. No, like Eli said, a team of world-class players falling because the manager can't get his tactics across. And Dave Brummage said, all you guys wanting Slot on is just crazy. But why, Dave? And I'm not saying you're wrong, bro. Like I said, tonight I'm here to listen. Tonight I'm here to give you guys a platform. But why are they all mad? Because what are you seeing, bro, that is giving you any confidence? Really, I'm not trying to be that guy, mate. I'm not. I'm asking because I want to understand. Because I can tell you why I think Arne is walking a tightrope and why he could be close to being gone. But I'm really struggling to figure out a way to back him. And I want to. I promise you I want to. Joseph said, let's be honest, is Slot really going to get sacked during this season? He won't. So that's where I have a real question mark. If the season is terrible, right? If it is, and he doesn't get sacked, why? Truly, why? You don't go and let's get back to the conversation we all had in the summer. And I think most of us were on the side of this conversation that I'm about to say. We were talking about doubles, trebles. We were talking about a team to dominate Europe for seasons. We were talking about retaining the Premier League and maybe doing it at a canter. Of course, some of that could have been foolhardy and some of that could have been overconfidence. But why did the standards suddenly slip from that being the aim, that being the minimum, to now accepting mediocrity and making excuses for it? I'm being genuine here. I don't know of any successful club or team that accepts mediocrity. Especially when you've got a manager who just doesn't look like he's willing to move things around or change it or figure it out. And it's just one excuse after another. I just don't understand it. We either have standards at this football club or we don't. What do people expect to suddenly change if we sack Slot? Who do we all expect to come in and magically do better? See, respectfully, that's not our decision to make. I had the same about the owners. People were saying, well, if FSG go, who comes in? That's not on us, dude. That's not on us, the fans. That's on Hughes and Edwards to figure out. And it's not fuck all decent managers being around isn't really a good enough reason to keep an underperforming one in. You get what I mean? Again, not trying to be an asshole, but I'm trying to say we either have standards at this football club or we don't. And I feel like we're now just starting to get to that point where we're making excuses that wouldn't wash if we were talking about another club and their manager. Um, I don't get it. You know, I've been lucky enough that I played football at a pretty high level with pretty good people. And I promise you, nobody in any of those dressing rooms that I was in would be sitting here accepting this shit. None of them. Nobody who's played sport at a high level got there because they were willing to accept mediocrity or they were willing to accept failure. That's the ABCs of me as a person. And I don't see why we should revisit where we all were in the summer with the excitement that we all felt at an incredible transfer window, one that pretty much to a man, woman and child, we all said was a generational window with unbelievable backing from the owners who I've been extremely critical of for not spending. And this is what we're getting. This is the output we're getting. Now, if the new players are struggling to set in, revert back to the old ones and try to ease your way back in. Revert back to a simpler style of football. Sit deeper. Be a bit less committal going forward. But it's just same stuff over and over again. Just same shit every single game. Paul Owen said, Craig, they look seriously lost out there. Yes. And like I said, if this was because we were making errors, players trying to learn what Arne wants to do, I would be far more understanding. If we were trying to pass around the back and we were getting caught out and giving away opportunities with that like ball around the press, I'd be far more understanding. But it's basic, direct football that's undoing us. One ball through the centre, a ball into the channel. And how many duels are our players losing? That's about effort, commitment and fight. That's not about tactics. That's about a will to win. The Legend's a great week for an Arsenal fan. Got to keep it up. Look, that league title right now is in your hands. You know, I hate saying that, but I'm a man of my word, and I always said, if Arsenal win a league title, I'll be on here to congratulate them because I'm not an asshole. If City win a league title, I'm not going to congratulate them one bit because I think they're a bunch of cheating arseholes. But if Arsenal win the league title, dude, as much as it'll kill me, I'll be on here to congratulate you because it'll be deserved. You know, you're not going too far wrong with the clean sheets you're keeping. And yes, you might be winning games by the odd goal, but right now you have quite a gap at the top of the league. City lost today. You're 7 points ahead of us. You know, it's in your own hands. And I'd like to think I could sit here and say, well, let's see if Liverpool can chase you down. But honestly, at this point, for me as a Liverpool fan, I'm not thinking about a league title. I'm thinking about, can we get Champions League football again? And I hope we can. Will Liverpool play Europe next season or Europa League next season? Not sure. You know, I'm not writing off the season. I really amn't because, like I've said so many times over the past week, we could come good midway through the season. If we can come good at the knockout stages or the latter part of some of the competitions we're in, the league could be gone at that point. The league is probably gone. But you could certainly come good in the Champions League. We've seen many times before. PSG did it, having had a terrible start to the season. And we can certainly go deep in a cup competition. So I'm not writing off the season. But I'm also not seeing any signs of it going in the right direction. Mohammed Irfan said, a year of transition, simple as that. It's not happening this season. Again, though, where's the transition? Personnel, yes. But what else? See, this is what gets me. So quick to write off a whole season as a year of transition. It shouldn't be. It's not a new manager. It's not a new system. So why should we have a year of transition and why should that be acceptable? That's what I would argue. Harry said, hey Craig, hope you're well. If I was a Bournemouth fan, especially, but also Sunderland to a certain extent, I'd be delighted. You guys in City look poor, as Man United have a weak depth and will lose Ahmad and Mbuemo to the AFCON. Well, look, we're going to lose Mo to the AFCON, which again isn't breaking news, something we knew about. But I keep talking about the amount of forwards that we have. And we have technically 6, but we don't. We have 4. Because he won't play Chiesa from the start and he won't play Rio. So we're hamstringing ourselves with 4 forwards. One of which, isn't hitting the levels he's capable of, but is still chipping in with a few like he did yesterday with Mo. The other one, Cody Gakpo, doesn't look anywhere near as dynamic or as intimidating a presence as Diaz, but is also chipping in with a few. We've got a centre forward in Isak, who they look like they don't know how to link up with, and Ekitike, who has been a bit of a bright spark, to be fair, since he's come in. So we just don't have depth there. No challenger for Mo on the right, no real challenger for Gakpo on the left, no challenger for either of our centre-back positions. Where's the competition for places? Where's the depth? Because depth only exists if the manager trusts the players that are on the bench. And there's a lot of them there he still doesn't seem to trust. Is it just me or do we still lack pace? I would agree, Adams. We do still lack pace, mate. Obviously, you would expect for some of that from Frimpong and Kirkes. But in the attacking positions, I definitely think we need some more pace and some more power. Whether that's Semenyo or somebody else, I do think this is a conversation, even at the best of times, we were having as Liverpool fans. Change.4L said, the El Clasico today is a real definition of how bad the Premier League has gone backward in terms of football quality, and the game being a refresh to the Prem this season, which has been a meta of set pieces. So I watched El Clasico today, and my God, if that Real Madrid show up, we're getting spanked. And I don't say that lightly, because I watched that game and I seen two teams who had excuses of their own with some injuries, particularly on the Barca side, but I seen a much better game of football. Like, I seen much more talent, much more flair, much more tactical nous in that El Clasico today than I've seen in most of the Premier League games this season, certainly in the ones that we featured in. Gary said, we're missing the creativity of Trent and the unpredictability of Diaz. We concede so many on the counter because we're too easy to predict. So the counter-attacking thing I don't think is new. The counter-attacking thing, it goes all the way back to Klopp, to be honest with you. I say it in every watch-along, we're at our most vulnerable when we're in possession. But I do take your point about Trent. But again, they had the time to go out there and fix it, change it. We never expected to find another Trent at right back, but it's again about creativity coming from different parts of the pitch. So I want to ask a question that I don't know the answer to, so this is genuinely why I'm asking. Right. Do you think Slaw has lost the dressing room? Now, hear me out, but why I'm asking this question. I'm not asking this question to be a provocateur or to be an asshole, but let's think about how long we've been playing poorly. It isn't just this season. We're going back to March, February, March onwards, since we've been poor. Remember that, because it's easy for us to write off the end of last season, but we were knocked out of the Champions League at the first knockout stage. We lost the cup final. And we went out to Plymouth in the FA Cup. So this lack of performance isn't new. It's just carried on into a new season. So I'm genuinely wondering if the players just aren't buying in to the style of leadership that Arne is providing. They're very different characters, Jurgen and Arne. And it does seem to be a very Dutch way to, I don't say be relaxed, but there's not enough aggression from Virgil or from Arne on the sidelines. And I don't know, maybe I'm romanticising the Klopp era a bit too much here, but I don't really envision him in the dressing room getting stuck into people and calling people out. He almost seems in awe at times of some of the players that we have, and that he isn't ready to manage them, or he isn't ready to hold them to account or call them out. Is he a big enough personality in there? Because last year we praised him no end for his tactical tweaks, his mid-game changes. We all had concerns that we weren't starting games quick enough, but he was figuring it out as we went along. This season, I don't even see the figuring it out part. I just see a desperation stakes where you're emptying the bench of attackers and hoping for the best. Corbin said, was late for work, was a low block's fault. Probably a long throw in as well, dude. He needs to shut up with the low block stuff, honestly, because you can't talk about low blocks when you're conceding in the first fucking 15 minutes. You can't. Because it's not a low block that you're conceding from. You're just giving up easy goals because you're too easy to play through. Arsenal are top of the league and they've managed to win by 1 goal in 4 of their 7 wins. It's defensively where leagues are won or lost. I agree with that, mate. I agree with that. You know, like I said, what have they conceded? 4 goals? 4 goals this year in the league, which is incredible. And it's not like they're out there winning by 5, 6 and 7s like some of the Manchester City teams under Pep did. They're built off a good base and they have strength and depth. And it's not even like they've come in and Gyökeres has been tearing it up or anything. You know, Arsenal are just steady, solid, consistent, and not giving up stupid goals, and are very proficient in set pieces at a time where football is having a bit of a renaissance of set pieces. Whereas our manager almost wants them to be made illegal. He goes on about long throws, set pieces, and corners as if, you know, it's something that shouldn't be in the sport. Mahmood said, yes, Mo is doo-doo right now, but Slot is playing him striker and no overlapping plays with wing. Call me whatever, but Trent was key and it's on Slot's job to fix it. So he's definitely not playing him as a striker. And the reason I'm saying that, Mohammed, is, and I don't really have I deleted the image, but we had a heat map. Actually, do you know what, dude? I might be able to take it out of the bin. 1 second. We had a heat map which showed Mohamed Salah's positioning. Here we go. I'll be able to bring it back out here. So let me just bring this up for you. So here you have a heat map, right? And on the left-hand side, you have this season for Mohamed Salah, 25-26. This is Sky Sports, so credit to them for it. But you can see the position that Mo taken up mainly is very wide right there in that red area. If you come across to the heat map from last season, you can see a lot more red in the corner of the penalty area. So if anything, last season, we were able to get Mo closer to the goal. And this season, whether it's because of the personnel, whether it's because of a lack of having Trent in there in the right side, whether it's because of new players in and around him, whether it's because of a drop-off of form, either way, you're not seeing Mo getting into the dangerous positions that led to him having that incredible season last season. So, if anything, we thought, well, let's try him in the 4-4-2 that we see midweek. And that would surely get him closer to goal. So that's why I'm saying I don't think it's on where he's playing Mo. It is on us not being able to get Mo closer to goal. But I want to just keep going back to one thing. We talked about replacing Mo in the longer term, and part of what we did in the summer transfer market was to spread that burden of goal scoring across the front line. Isak hasn't started hitting ground yet. Wirtz is all over the shop, and Ekitike's done his fair share so far. I think the problem comes from defending. Now, when I say defending, Mohammed, I don't mean just our centre backs and our full backs. I mean our midfield and our attackers. Our attackers aren't pressing anywhere near as much as they should. They aren't tracking back anywhere near as much as they should. And that's causing us problems. And I don't know for the life of me why our centre backs don't go and confront a player, but they just keep jockeying them, which is a phrase that we would say, you know, standing off, and making the forwards or making the player make a decision. I want them to be more in their face. I want them to be getting their socks dirty. I want them to be up in their faces and aggressive. We're not doing that. It's just so lackadaisical. Like, think about Semenyo's goal. The dude ran from inside his own half, unchallenged, all the way to our 18-yard box and buried it, while our 2 centre-backs just kept reversing and looking at him. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. It's basic stuff. One long ball through the middle or over the top and we're undone. Joe Flint said Salah's not in form. Logic says start Chiesa. I can't see the logic behind the decisions. So let's talk about Salah for a second, because is he being scapegoated even by me? Yes. But why is he being scapegoated? Because he's the standard bearer. You hold him and Virgil and Alisson to really high standards because they set those standards. They've set them for themselves. So Salah's form can be for many different reasons. A lot of people have been suggesting that he's still suffering because of Diogo's loss. And of course that's possible. But surely if that's the case, and if Mo is still mourning, isn't that more of a reason to take him out of the limelight? Give him the break, maybe a holiday with his family, whatever he might need. And that applies to any of the players, by the way. I'm not some heartless bastard that doesn't understand the grieving process. But I don't want players that aren't 100% on the pitch. And it's perfectly okay to ask for help. As I say on here every single stream, anybody suffering, whether you're a professional footballer or you're a Joe Soap who works on a building site or in a supermarket, it doesn't matter. If you're hurting, you're hurting. And I would have no issue with any of those guys being given a breather and time, because what they went through was very difficult. But we can't have it both ways. We can't have an admittance that they're suffering and then keep playing them and not questioning why. So it has to be one or the other. That's where I'm trying to go with it. And yeah, the pressure does fall on Salah and Virgil's shoulders because, well, to be frank, they earn the big bucks for being those standard bearers. And it's not acceptable that you're only happy when everyone's blowing smoke up your arse. You know, it's not acceptable to just keep pushing it back onto the fans and it be our fault and take down your social media. No, grow a pair. Grow a pair. Face up and confront what's wrong. And don't try and pawn off blame. It's just not good enough. And I'm fed up of fans being scapegoated. Did you see Eze's karate kick goal? I didn't see the goal, mate. No, I didn't. I was kind of half following all the 2 p.m. games and didn't really watch anyone in particular. What's this one? Luroxic Gaming said, if we miss out on the Champions League, money for next season, I feel FSG will sack him considering the investment this summer. It could put us in FFP trouble, maybe. So there's a couple of things that come to mind when you talk about potentially missing Champions League football. One of them, and I don't know the answer to this, could be the contract with Adidas. I don't know if there's a clause in there that there's less money comes in if you don't qualify for Champions League football or not. I really don't know. But I don't think it's going to take a whole season for the owners to know. Because like I've said, if I felt like this was a teething issue, promise you I'd be far more calm about it. But I don't think it's a teething issue. I don't think it's a new player issue. I think it's a pig-headedness from our manager and an unwillingness to change it up. I think it's a system thing and I think it's on him. Yes, players are underperforming, but they're also not being held to account for underperforming. What message does it send? Again, comes back to standards. And some people watch football and they're okay whatever happens. Some people watch Liverpool, and if Liverpool lose, they can go about their weekend, be annoyed for 5 minutes. Then there's people like me and many others whose weekend is built into the football. And if you're seeing the guys that you idolise out there not putting a shift in, it's just not good enough and it cuts deep. You know, it's up to you which one you are, and that's okay. But I'm the latter. I'm somebody who's very invested in the football club, very invested in the performances. The highs are amazing and the lows are horrendous. And right now, it doesn't feel like a form thing. It feels like a manager thing. It's like pass and pass till we reach the final third. Then we forget or don't know what to do. The ball, no more crosses into the box also. Definitely. So the crosses are frustrating because if you look at them, I actually don't even know where they're aiming them to. Go back and watch that game yesterday. There was 6, maybe, that I don't think went within 5-6 yards of a Liverpool player. And What summarised that whole game to me yesterday was the most innocuous of moments. It was Alexis McAllister picked up the ball in the halfway line. Virgil was to his left. We were chasing the game, and he plays the ball 5 yards behind Virgil. It's just simple things like that. Passing isn't right. The intensity isn't right. And yes, with a lack of confidence, sometimes you second guess yourself. I understand that as well. But zonal marking is a piss take. It's a piss take. I don't know why we continue with it. Because there's no accountability there. None. And anybody who has a running jump on you is going to win that battle. They have a throw in, and we know what they're going to do. And it's not like they scored direct from that throw in. It's second balls. And somebody said to me yesterday that Salah lost 9 duels. Like, him, and I would also throw in Florian Wirtz. For all the positives I've seen in Wirtz and the progression, he's too weak on the ball. He's getting dispossessed too easily. And we're starting to feel sorry for ourselves. Mahmood said, would you take Klopp back over, let's say, Zidane? I don't want Zidane. Let me put that out there first and foremost, because one doesn't speak English, and I don't want the coach who's in the dressing room doesn't speak English. I think it's important. Communication's an important part of coaching. But would I take Klopp back? Yes. I said this midweek. I mean, we said it on the podcast, and the two guys disagreed with me. They said they wouldn't take Klopp back. I would take Klopp back tomorrow morning. Simple. I would. And this isn't just based off what we're seeing. I just connected more with Jurgen as a fan. You know, I seen more of myself and my type of emotional response in Jurgen. So that's why I was a massive Jurgen Klopp fan. So yeah, I would take him back tomorrow. I understand anybody else as well who said, no, I don't want to go back. I can totally understand that. I'm not going to jump down your throat about that one bit. Yeah, just I'm always honest, and sometimes I'm going to be too honest, and people are going to just think I shouldn't have said that. But I don't see much to be positive about right now. I really don't. I was happily shocked Hendo had more creativity, said Mahmood. Look, you can understand moments not happening. You can understand chances being missed. But like Robbo said in the game yesterday, you can't allow a lack of fight. You can't allow that. That's just not acceptable at any fucking level. To not go out there and fight for the shirt. Because that'll get you a long way in life. That'll get you a long way on a football pitch. A good attitude. Go out there and work your ass off. And you'll go a long way. And often a top level sport, that's the minimum. And then the class tells in the end. Khalid, how are we, Khalid? Said, hey Craig, huge fan, one question. But why do we feel like we have so much faith in Klopp but not Slot? It's a very fair question. And like I said, for me, it's... So I'm going to give you an opinion now. And it isn't me saying this is a fact, Khalid. But I felt like Klopp cared. Rightly or wrongly. I felt like if Klopp lost, he's at home and he can't sleep about it. He's out in the back garden pacing about it. And I'm probably wrong, because I'm sure Arne does care. But I don't see it. All I hear is excuses. And I know that Jurgen would be in that changing room calling a spade a spade. Like he said, we've heard this before, where he went into that dressing room in a game where we didn't go on to win, and Klopp went in there and said, my old midfield would have had the balls to win that. I respond to that. And I want to hear that from a coach. I don't want excuses. I want this isn't good enough. I'm going to put this right. These players who aren't performing are going to be benched, and reputations are irrelevant at this moment because we're fighting for our survival. We're fighting to stay in this championship. We're fighting to stay in this league title. All I get from Slot is fucking excuses. So for me, it's a relatable thing, and it's an emotional thing. And I'm most likely being very unfair to Arne here, because some people are very determined but aren't emotionally expressive. But I respond to Jurgen's type of leadership more. and I connect more with people like Jurgen. And also, I never want to deny a man seeing his family, but fuck off going to Dubai in October when you've had 3 losses on the bounce. I'm sorry, that is bullshit. By all means, have your family come over or spend a weekend over in the Netherlands with your family, but to up sticks and head to Dubai when all around us is falling apart, what message does that send? What leadership is that? Because I'm telling you now, if I was one of those players and I'm a coach under him and that shit happens, I'm questioning, does he give a fuck? Why? It's not good enough. Just because there's an international break, he's not on his holidays. He still has players to coach and he still has answers to find. And he should be at the AXA with his coaches, leaving no stone unturned, trying to figure out how on earth he's going to turn this ship around. But no, he's in Dubai sunning himself. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable if you're winning shit. It's absolutely unacceptable if you're falling apart and you've just lost 3 on the bounce. And I don't give a shit. If you want to see your family, great. Have a weekend with them. Bring them over. But that just does not look right to me. Wayne said, you just won the league for fuck's sake. You fell off massively with Klopp after winning the league. Terrible fans. Well, then why the fuck are you here, asshole? Like, one, Wayne, we don't know who the fuck you are. And secondly, we have standards. You might not understand that, mate, but we have standards. And when you win the league and you go out there and build on that success by investing in the team, you don't get the luxury of falling off. You don't get the luxury of making us lose 5 games in a row in the league. So, fuck you and your stupid opinion. Because quite frankly, mate, I don't know who you are, I don't know who you support, and I couldn't give a fuck about what you have to say. So, there you go. Go laugh somewhere else. Because you're not who I'm in here tonight to talk to. I'm here tonight to talk to Liverpool fans, not assholes. Imagine Klopp getting his Coutinho back with Wirtz. So here's another thing that kind of angers me about the Wirtz situation. Do you remember when we signed him? There was a good few write-ups, and in those write-ups we were told that he was the 10, and it was very clearly articulated to him how he was going to play, how he was going to be utilised, and what role was his. How long did that last? He's been played right wing now. I don't get it. So it doesn't take very long for the manager to shift things around. Wirtz is a 10. Play him in the 10. If you want to play him off the striker, play him off the striker. But playing him on the right, whereas if you wanted to play him on either side, let's be honest, he's favoured off the left. These, like, Dominic Szoboszlai has played right back and is probably being our best right back this season. That in itself is an indictment. Because he's not a right back. So too many times we've had to fill holes with the wrong type of players, and it's detrimental to us in other areas. Scott said Klopp's team won the league, didn't play the players he bought. He got lucky, but the signs were there. Nothing changed, even with $500 million. So we didn't invest when we won the league under Jurgen, and that was supposed to be a lesson we learned from. So now we've won the league, invested massively, expectations were high amongst fans, and now there's a lot of backtracking and excuse making. I'm not somebody who deals well with excuse making, because you either walk the walk or you don't. But you don't get to have the biggest backing of any manager in Liverpool history and be 7th in the league, having been 5 points clear. And then put your arms up in the air and say, well, we're too easy to concede. We're too easy to get at. And I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. Our manager, I don't know the answer. Well, then best get your jacket, mate, and head off. Or find somebody who does know the fucking answer. Every other club would sack the manager if he lost 4 or 5 games in a row. Yes. They would. They would. And that's what I'm talking about. So for some reason, we don't seem to hold ourselves accountable or to standards. We just make excuses. You don't win things with excuses. And yes, of course, maybe now isn't the time to push the panic button, but it must be getting close. Because we could be beaten by Aston Villa. I mean, at the best of times, going to the Etihad is going to be a tough game. And we've got an in-form Real Madrid coming to Anfield. So, in the space of 2 weeks, we could be potentially out of the League Cup or potentially through. We could be even further off the pace of not just the league, but a European place. And we could be languishing down around 17th, 18th in the Champions League format. And that's not me exaggerating. That's absolutely possible. BMAC said, I believe that FSG are ruthless as far as the Red Sox are concerned with coaches. It's going to be interesting to see how they react if we lose our next couple of games. I really don't know. I don't know what to expect from the owners on this one. Truly, because like I said, there are extenuating circumstances. The loss of Diogo, some bedding in process time. I do understand that. But, you know, you can account for a few draws here or there. But conceding the way we are just looks like he doesn't know how to sort out the defence. Because it isn't a goal scoring problem we have. It's a keeping clean sheets problem that we have. And he doesn't look like he knows how to do it. Hassam said, I'm 42 and seen plenty of football. When Pep started at Barca, you saw progress despite losses. Here, I see none. Feels like Slot got no clear plan. So, Hassam, a couple of years older than your good self, mate, and with Jurgen, I seen progress all the time. Then you get to that holy grail, you win the league, and yeah, there are going to be blips. But I don't see any progress this season, mate. I don't. I've seen wonderful moments that have won us games, and I've seen unlucky things that have lost us games. But I don't see, Hassam, an identity, and I don't see a path forward that this is going to change soon. Because it feels like, look, I think it's a coaching thing and a manager thing more than the players. And managers are also really unlucky because managers are the ones that are held to account. Players fail, it's more likely going to be on the manager anyway, and he's going to get his marching orders. It's a personal preference as to how long you're willing to go. And yes, historically, we're not a club that likes to sack managers, but we've done it. We've sacked managers who've won European Cups. We've sacked managers who've won league titles. And Arne Slot should be no different. If he can't arrest this decline very quickly, then he has to be shown the door. But, like I said at the very start of this stream, every single one of us wants the manager to succeed. So, N. Judah said, you have no class, man. So, firstly, mate, to speak about me having no class or character, I think is quite frankly fucking ridiculous. I'm somebody who has done so many kind, nice things for people in our community over and over. And I think my class speaks for itself. So, you say for real, I'm going to say, fuck you. Who are you to judge me, dickhead? Who are you? So, you can stay in the States and you can keep your opinion, but you don't get to judge me. You can have an opinion, the same way I can tell you to go and fuck yourself. So yeah, that's not very classy of me, but hey, you'd already made your mind up on me, right? And also, your fucking arrogance to think that, well, here in the States, I don't give a shit, dude. I don't give a shit. I don't need you to justify my opinion. I do that myself. We understand how difficult it is for Liverpool to gel together. Do you? Well, boo fucking who? Because I tell you what, bro, the media in America would be having a field day with our manager. But the lads over here don't seem to want to ask the difficult questions. So everything you've said there is pretty much full of shit. Certainly about, here over in America, we understand. Do you? You elected Donald Trump, dickhead. What do you understand? So don't come in here and be arrogant towards me. With your, over here in the States, we want to fuck you. Fuck you. Salah's been shite since before Christmas. Drop him. Virgil's arrogance, lots of bluff. Disgrace what he's doing to Chiesa. Swerve Salah stats. Look, Salah hasn't been great, but he's not the only one. Simple as that. I can't look at this and say one or two people are responsible for this. And if it was, it'd be a far easier conversation for us to be having. But I truly feel when you've got 6, 7, 8, 9 players underperforming, it's not a player thing. It's a manager thing. But like I said, I'm only speculating because I'm not in that dressing room. And unlike our American friend there, I'm not so arrogant as to think I know everything or judge people. Please don't bring politics into this. I will do whatever I want when somebody shows me no respect. And if he thinks he can talk down to me, I can very fucking quickly put him in his place. So, you know I don't talk politics on here, but I'm not going to be lectured to by some arrogant arsehole all the way across the Atlantic who I've forgotten more about football than he'll ever know. Over here in the States, we understand this. Fuck you. You understand nothing. And look, we do try to stay away from politics because of course it's a divisive subject. But, you know, sometimes some home truths need to be given, especially when people try to be condescending and say I've got no class. I bought a wheelchair for a guy who needed a wheelchair. I've bought jerseys for kids whose parents couldn't afford to get them Christmas presents. I've brought disabled kids over from Poland to see shows. I know where I am with regards to class, motherfucker. I know where I stand. My class is shown every single day in my actions, not on the internet writing words. Like I said, go ask Joe how a £7.5 wheelchair basketball chair is, that our community, the classy individuals that they are, help them attain. Go ask the disabled son who we flew over from Poland to our show with his father, how classy we are. So, fuck him and his judgmental attitude. I know what type of human being I am. The fans deserve more. We do. And that's the thing. Like, there's always, it's on the fans. It's on the fans. Why? I think Liverpool fans are really understanding. Like, imagine this was a Chelsea manager. He'd be gone. And what's nuts is, so many times I've said, we all want him to succeed. And I really do. Like, go back to when Arne came into the club. I was sitting here saying, I don't think he's going to be a sacrificial lamb. People, Glenn Johnson, former players were saying, he's going to fail, he's coming him after Jurgen, he's doomed to fail. I never believed that for 1 second. I supported him, I backed him. But right now, I'm just giving my honest opinion on what I'm seeing, and I don't see any signs of the decline arresting. I just don't see it. But I hope it does. I hope we beat Palace. I hope we go on and beat Villa. And I hope we can start to put it together. But we won one game against a weak Eintracht Frankfurt, and then he changes back to the same similar personnel that was failing. I don't see he's learning lessons. It's always difficult. Like, the channel's always at its most difficult when things aren't going well, because people's emotions are heightened, understandably so. Because mine certainly are. So I understand it when people are up and down. And like I said tonight, I'm trying to be here to listen, not to judge. But I'm not going to be judged by somebody who I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where we're at. That one. I think we saw the wrong fella. Bring Heidinger back, said Mahmood. Harry said, I don't know if I'm being overly critical, but the Shada goal yesterday was almost a carbon copy of the Igor Thiago goal against us in terms of it being off a long ball behind a high line. You weren't alive to that. I don't know. Look, so many times we so many times we turn over possession and create opportunities for our opponents and give up chances. And this isn't an Arne thing. This happened under Jurgen as well. And it's something I've said for a long time concerns me. I don't know if we're overcommitting at times in attack, but look at the goal yesterday. I think, forgive me, I can't remember who gave the ball away in the opposition half. Might have been Wirtz, but I can't remember. And within 15 seconds, the ball was in the back of our net with a couple of passes, and we're just so wide open. Look at United's goal, 62 seconds in. One sec. So, we asked, do you think Slot has lost the dressing room? We'll let this one go a little bit longer because the bigger sample size we can get, the better. But up to you what you think. This is what I said. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not trying to be leading in the question. Do you think Slot has lost the dressing room? Craig, you don't have to prove anything to anyone about class. We're here, we know who you are and what you're about. Look, it just annoys me because he doesn't know me from Adam, but because he disagrees with my opinion on how I'm judging the manager, he thinks I've got no class. It's a big leap to make, right? He doesn't know anything about me, but I could come on here and play the game. I could come on here and say everything's going to be great and be happy clappy and, be nicey. But I've always promised my honesty. Always promised my honesty. And honestly, right now, I think we look lost. And even there's another comment that was deleted saying, you guys are a joke, even considering this at this point. But here's my problem. And what's this person's name? Racket Talk. I'm not saying you're right or wrong in what you're saying, but everybody who's come in to belittle anybody who has an opinion hasn't backed up why. So you said people that are talking about sacking are a joke. Why? What's the counter argument? Because you're not contributing anything if you're just coming in to be negative. We're trying to have a genuine conversation. And if you disagree, that's cool. That's no problem. But you're not giving us a counterpoint. You're just belittling people. This isn't an excuse, but something that has been talked about is the pen shout and Gakpo. I firmly believe, Keane, that was a penalty. I do. Others said it was a dive. Hand on heart, I firmly believe it was a penalty. But it wasn't given. So I don't want to use it as an excuse. But honestly, I do feel it was a penalty. Maybe we need to go to a low block. Clean sheets are a must. Go back to basics and defend first, to Daniel Nelson. Yeah, look, in these type of scenarios, I think most of us here would say, go back to basics. Absolutely. If you can become more defensively rigid, you're at least giving yourself a better chance. And then maybe what Arne has done in the past, which is wear teams down, figure it out, and find ways to exploit their weaknesses. So I think going back to basics, Daniel, I know it's a theoretical conversation, but going back to basics certainly, to me, feels like something that's common sense right now. Whether that is playing two defensive midfielders or a shield in front of the back four, whether it's maybe not having your full back go forward as much. I mean, I think we'd all take a few 0-0 draws at this point over, losing games and conceding silly goals in the first 15 minutes. Jimmy said, this season, one issue for Mo is that time he gets the ball, the opponent's penalty box is already crowded most of the time. Yeah, and like I showed, mate, with this graphic here, we're not able to, and I truly don't know, dude, I'm not clever enough to figure this out, but you can see from the graphic, left side this season, we're not able to get Mo into that position where he can cause problems, which is inside the penalty area. And he is being doubled up on. But again, if you're thinking theoretically, if Mo's being marked out of the game, Well, that gives areas for other people to maybe be able to exploit that space. Um, and again, theoretically, when you've got a front line potentially of Ekatike, Salah, and Isak, you would think that there's enough creativity and class there to find a way. But it's conceding. That's our big problem. So he needs to find a way to start keeping clean sheets and then build from that. Back to basics is fine, but we seem to have no threat when attacking and scoring. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but certainly feel like we aren't short of scoring goals this season. But like I've said, we've conceded, what was the number? We've conceded 14 goals in 9 games. So we're conceding 1.5 goals a game, which means to try and win these games, you're needing to average 2 goals a game. How many games have Arsenal won 1-0 this season? They've only conceded 3 or 4 goals. We conceded the same amount as Arsenal in 2 games. So I don't think scoring is really our problem at times. I think our problem is keeping teams out at the other end. So David said, it's a shame people forget that quickly what Slot has done last season. Nobody's forgotten what he's done last season. This is just, again, a lazy answer. I'll continue your comment. He's done an amazing job, and in bad times, old supports a lot like the players. Easy talk from everybody in Slot, I believe. So, what have you seen, David, this season that makes you believe in Slot, other than you wanting to believe in Slot? Because that's admirable, sir. It really is. It's admirable that you want to support the manager. But it's also nonsensical if there's a reason. If there's no reason, I should say. I don't see anything from Slot this season to justify the fall off. We weren't raided and sold all of our best players. We went out and spent nearly £500 million and we've gone backwards. So at what point, sir, does backing a manager become banging your head against the wall? So, again, nobody's forgot that he won the league last year. Nobody. But I think you forgot what we all said in the summer, which was the aim and the goal for this season and what we expected. Because with the money spent, expectation rises. And our expectation as fans was to try to retain the league and to try to go as far as we can in the cup competitions. So why is the revisionism coming in now when it's failing? Why is it okay to accept failure? I'm not saying you have to be standing outside Slot's house with a placard saying Arne out, but to just blankly say you're backing somebody, it just feels naive, in my opinion, mate. Right, so over 2,000 votes and 70% of people who voted said that they think Slot has lost the dressing room. So, and also, David, one more point, sir, if I may. And by the way, you can see the difference here of how I'm responding to him because he hasn't been condescending towards us. This isn't just this season, David. Go back to the end of last season, mate. And it's carried right through. That's adding to why I think it's a problem. Because it's a 9-month problem now. And not just a 2-month problem. And last season, the excuse from people was that we'd won the league. And that it was okay. We shouldn't have lost the League Cup final to Newcastle. We were played off the park and deservedly were beaten. No plan for that game. Won the league and then standards just went. So that's why I'm annoyed. Because I don't think it is just this year, my man. I think it's happened last year as well. BBZDP1 iffy said, I've followed Liverpool for 40 years and the last few years I often feel like we've been fortunate not to lose games. Commentators saying the opposition only had a better striker. Well, look, I guess that could go in both directions, right? We're certainly unfortunate to lose some games as well. But for me, it just comes down to I don't see progress. And I don't see anything different when we go out there each week. I don't see different patterns of play. I don't see us mixing up our variations of attack. I just see the same stuff, the same personnel, and nothing different. And that's what has me concerned. Scary Candy said you lost some key players, spent a lot of new players, and he's trying a new system. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's absolutely not trying the new system. That's not true. He did it once, we won, and then he reverted back. But anyway, I'll carry on with your point. This season will be for the team to adapt to what he's doing and the new players to settle in. Of course, there's some fairness to new players settling in, but he looks like he has no understanding of what he wants to do to get the best out of those new players. So as an example, every time Isak's been on the pitch, it looks like the lads haven't got a clue where to play the ball to, how to get him involved in the game. Wirtz, who was coming in to be the number 10, has now played number 10, number 8. He's played wide right. He's played wide left. There's just so many preventable things there that if we were having a rhyme and reason to what we were doing, we would know exactly how to utilise them. And then if it isn't working, you go back to the players who were there. So yes, we lost Trent. That was the only player we probably didn't have control over the situation. But they sold Diaz and didn't bring in any replacement. We were told that young Rio Ngamo was going to be the replacement, but he's not been given the minutes to show that he's trusted as the replacement. So again, I think we're hamstringing ourselves by having 4 forwards instead of 6, even though we have 6 in the squad. You know your threats. Let me just... Oh, sorry. I have a few more super chats I want to run through because I want to play catch up. Jimmy said this season, one issue for Mo is that by the time he gets on the ball, the opponent's penalty box is already... We've done that one. Jeff Porter said Salah playing on the wing and having limited defensive work is killing the right back. They get overlooked and the mids end up being stretched to cover. Yep. So if you've got a centre forward like Isak who doesn't really track back and doesn't really press too much, and then you've got Salah who, because of father time and age, is being given a bit less defensive work to do, I don't think we can afford to carry all of those players through games. And even at that, I just don't see the same level of pressing from us. Brentford's press yesterday was far more impressive than our press, in my humble opinion. And we could have... You know, but sometimes it's just a lack of effort out there, a lack of work rate. Where are we? Okay, this one, Henry. We're going to lose 5 games in a row. I'm scared. Well, we kind of, taken out... We've 4 league games in a row now we've lost. We won in the Champions League. And like even looking at the games we lost, we should not be losing to Galatasaray. They're not a very good team. David Massett said, evening Craig and our community, a lovely community. Thank you all for the support you've shown me over the loss of my father. We lay him to rest tomorrow. We'll be thinking of you, David, and as we all will, mate. Sending your family our love, and it's not going to be an easy day for you guys, but we'll be thinking of you, sir, and thank you as always for your support and dropping in. Jay Garrett said, first team coach that struggles to play against struggling teams offers nothing on the sideline. Get rid and go for Iriola. Hughes can make it. Look, ironically, I'm not at the sack slot part yet, and I tried to start the whole stream by saying that, but you know, some people jump from me being critical to, you know, me wanting him out. Now, I'm not too far away. A couple more losses in the next couple of league games or Champions League games, and I could well be pushing the panic button, but I just refuse to accept mediocrity in anything. And what we're seeing now is mediocrity. And it isn't acceptable. But it's also, when your back's up against the wall, this is where leaders are supposed to come through. And for a team filled full of international captains, we don't really seem to have players who are able to wrestle this back yet. Um, Slot's tactics do not suit the players brought in. He isn't an offensive-minded manager. So when I started seeing us keep the ball and play it around at the back, I did think that we were trying to do that to find the weak spots. But the biggest criticism I'd have about that is we're checking back a lot, which are allowing teams to reset, which only leans into their low block, and we don't move the ball quickly enough. We're not creating overloads. Like if you look at the best Manchester City teams under Pep Guardiola, they face low blocks all the time. But they found ways, whether it be balls deep to the back post, whether it be creating overloads on either side, they were moving the ball quickly. A lot of the time you see our centre-backs getting frustrated in possession because there's no movement ahead of them. There's no movement in midfield. There's no movement from the forwards. And then you see the frustration that shows where Ekitike is coming deep to try to get the ball, and we're then not exploiting the space that's created when Ekitike does come deep to get somebody in behind. It's just, we don't look well drilled. We don't look well drilled at the minute. Biggie Mall said, it's bizarre. His plan must have been good enough for Verts to be impressed. Absolutely flummoxed at it. Same, because anybody you spoke to, or not spoke to, sorry, anybody we'd heard from that we'd signed, they said that the plan they were given and the vision they were given by the manager was top notch. And I truly do believe that. So like yourself, Biggie Mall, I'm flummoxed, mate, as to what the hell is happening. Lolly, how are we, dude? Klopp made himself and players scousers. He connected to the people in the club. Everybody gave it all. So this is going to sound so trivial, Lolly, but I got a little bit annoyed last year at how complimentary Arne was about PSG. Before we played them, it was almost like he was in awe of them, rather than licking his lips to go and have a go at them. Does anybody else get that vibe? Look, and I get there's nothing wrong with being complimentary to another team, but I felt like he was almost in awe rather than being complimentary. And like his goal was to be them. His goal was to play like they did. And he kept going on and on about it. But we brought in players that we all thought, okay, well now maybe we do that. Now maybe we have the pace in the wide areas with Kirkes and Frimpong. Now maybe we do press the shit out of teams with Verts and the creativity in there. But we're not doing that either. And it comes down to not understanding a style of play that we have. Keane said, has Frimpong getting injured and the key players from last season being out of form scuppered the plan? So the thing about Frimpong I find most interesting, Keane, is I don't know if Arne really knows where he wants to play him. Because I don't think he's a fullback. And I don't think he'll ever be a fullback. So you then ask why we brought him in. Because we don't know if he was brought in to be a Salah replacement or not a replacement, a Salah alternative. I go back to pre-season where there was a few games where we had Bradley and Frimpong both on the pitch, and Frimpong was always playing in a more advanced position. So stylistically, he played in a 3-5-2 or something similar with Leverkusen as a wing back, but he's not a wing back with us. He's either a full back or he's a right winger. So again, it's kind of that mishmash of we're somewhere in the middle. So I don't even know if he knows how to utilise Frimpong. That meme guy said PSG actually gets forward presses while we play hospital football just passing at the back. They do. And PSG were incredibly impressive when they played against us in both games. That's why I'm a little bit irked as to, well, if that is what he wants to do, he could do it. But we're not doing it. It all starts from the front. It all starts from the press. If the press isn't right, the space is there. And when you play against teams, look, remember we played with Jurgen. We condensed the pitch. We tried to shrink the pitch. And that's done for two reasons. One, it's to give them no space. Two, it's not rocket science. The higher up the pitch you can win the ball back, the less distance you have to the opponent's goal. And if you are playing with that high line and playing with a confidence, you're banking on the VAR and the linos to get the offside calls right. But you're also then saying to teams, right, well, you're not going to play around us. You're not going to play through us. The only thing you're going to have to do here is go long or come up with some ridiculous pattern of play to beat our press. And if you beat our press, fair play. But we're not pressing at the minute. The press isn't there and we're too easy to pass through. And on top of that, we're also too easy to go direct against. Dre Rowe said, Craig, Salah has been the most poor player in this team and you were critical of him. Yet when you're put a parlay on Salah to score, you've gone quiet. I don't understand what you mean. When have I backtracked on my critical view on Salah? Because I put a bet on him to score yesterday, that somehow negates everything else? Well, firstly, I won the bet. So I was right on that. But it doesn't mean I think he's playing good, dude. I really don't know the point you're trying to make. Salah hasn't been good enough this season. I've said that week in, week out, day in, day out. I don't understand why me putting money on him, because I woke up yesterday and had a good feeling he was going to score. And more often in life, when I do that with anything and I put a bet on, it comes up for me. And I feel I got lucky with that bet yesterday for what it's worth, but I don't understand how you think I'm not being critical of him. I've been extremely critical of him and Virgil. So I really don't know the point you're trying to make, Drake. Just because I put a bet on somebody. And like I said, I won the bet. Yeah, you see, this Carl Rogers, you're another arsehole, mate. This whole, don't if you can't support us when we lose crap is just beta bitch mentality. It's just cheesy, cringy bollocks. Nothing else is. It's absolute nonsense. So if Liverpool lost 38 games in a row, you're going to be sitting there clapping them and standing up, standing ovations all around, dude. Is that what you're trying to say? Because it's fucking nonsense. You must have never, ever won anything in your life. Because the mentality that you have is absolutely ridiculous. I can easily flip your comment to another comment that says Liverpool Football Club exists to win trophies. So which one is it? Do we have standards or do we not? You don't become the most successful team in Liverpool or in English football history by not having standards. It's just so... honestly, it's just so cheesy and beta. It's embarrassing. Just find another cheesy bullshit catchphrase that you can latch onto, mate, because that's just ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. And somebody else made a really good point. Was it good odds on the bet? Well, it was the odds, Nick, that kind of made me lean into the bet, because it was 6-5, and I can't remember in a very long time seeing Mohamed Salah odds against to score a goal. You know, I remember looking at games where Mo was 2-5, 4-9. So yeah, that leaned into it as well. I thought there's value in 6-5. And somebody else here said it right as well. It's not losing, it's the way we're losing. Yes, and it's the acceptance of that losing. You know, you're not clever coming in with if you can't support us when we lose, don't support us when we win nonsense. It's just excuse making. And, you know, like I said, we have standards or we don't. In my opinion, don't support us when we win. If you can't support us when we lose, only applies when we give her all and leave nothing on the pitch. 100%. And we say this all the time, mate. If you see everybody giving 100% out there, 100% effort, you'll forgive a lot. Absolutely. That I agree with. If we're out there and we're being beaten by a better team and we've played to the best of our ability, no problem. We'll be behind the team. But that's not what we're seeing, is it? So I thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's a better sentiment than the cringy nonsense the gentleman before you wrote. The real Johnny Sins said, Craig, serious question. If Roman Abramovich was our owner, would Slot be sacked right now? Yes, he would. But I'm not saying that that's right. Because Roman Abramovich, and Chelsea, they got through managers quickly. And there is, of course, something to giving managers time. History has proven that. But this isn't a new manager. This is what I'm getting at. Like, this isn't Arne's first rodeo. It's not his first season with Liverpool. This is us trying to build on success, but going backwards. And a manager admitting publicly that he doesn't know what to do to stop the direct play against us, to stop us conceding. That's worrying to me. Jerry said, Craig, I live in the States. Does that mean you know more about football? Come on, man, don't be one of those people. What? So, Jerry, my friend, if that's how that rant came across, this was not me trying to undermine Americans, mate. This was me trying to say he's all the way over in America and he's having a go at me. Now, if anything, dude, I don't know how long you're around, but I'm a champion for overseas fans. I'm a champion, but I'm not going to be spoken down to by somebody. Full stop. So, if you think I was having a pop at Americans, I sincerely wasn't. I was having a pop at that American because he made a point of talking about where he was from. But, like I've said, mate, over and over again, I say to people, I don't care where you're from. I don't care how long you've supported the club. I don't care your knowledge of the club. You come in and be nice to us and we'll all get along just fine. And we're here to educate and learn from each other. So if it came across, Jerry, like I was trying to belittle Americans in general, certainly wasn't my intention. So I apologise if it came across that way. If Arne Slot resigned and said he was struggling mentally because of the Jota thing, how do you think, one, Liverpool fans and two, the media would react? I can only give you my answer, Harry, how I would react. I'd understand it because he's human. But how do I say this without sounding critical or sounding too harsh? In the first 5 or 6 games of the season, we weren't talking about the negative impact that was having. It's only when the results started to change that this came to the fore of the conversation a bit more. Now, of course, as a human being, and I've gone out of my way to say this time and time again, if any one of those guys, staff members, players are struggling, they should be given every bit of support they need and time away. And if Arne doesn't feel he can mentally do the job because of that loss, there's no judgment for me on that. He's a human being, and all I would want was for him to get to a place where he can be happy. I promise you that. So it's a really tricky conversation to go between, is it an excuse or is it a genuine thing? And again, we're sort of dealing in a hypothetical. But I've said it about Salah. Like, people have said to me a lot of the time, Salah looks like he's really struggling with the loss of Diogo. And the only answer I can give you is, if he is, surely that's more of a reason for him to be taken out of the limelight and given that time to grieve, given that time to process, and given that time to get back to himself. And I'd have no issue with that. And I'd have no issue if the manager said tomorrow we need a break because of it. I promise you I wouldn't. So I can't tell you how the media would react, dude. I can't tell you how fans would react, but I can tell you how I would react. And it would be with human decency. It's about time Liverpool gets Joe Matip out of retirement, said Mr. Nice Times. May I be a liar if I told you I hadn't flirted with that idea a little bit in my mind. Because we need more centre-back options. So yeah, look, I get wound up when I hear that Liverpool might not be looking to bring in a centre-back in January. Like, I really don't know what message that sends we need a centre back. So yeah, I'm hopeful in January we get one in. Craig, I'm in the US. Love your channel for years. So look, Jerry was. If it came across to Jerry that way, if you interpreted what I said that way, like I said, wasn't my intention. Anybody who knows me should know that I'm a champion for overseas fans, because I am one myself. I'm not English. I'm not Scouse. I'm an overseas fan. Um, my anger was just aimed at somebody trying to be condescending to me and using his nationality to do that. But I don't judge people on where they're from or how long they support the football club. But I do judge people for being an asshole. And not at Jerry, at the other guy. Gakpo left wing. Kirkes is supposed to help him score, not Gakpo help Kirkes score. So yeah, I mean, Arne did point out that there have been times where Cody could have played in Miloš and hasn't. So at least he's recognising that. But I think, again, it comes down to a lack of options. Like, if Gakpo doesn't play left, we don't really have a natural successor ready to play left. You can talk young Rio Ngamoa, but I think in another way we'd also all say he's not really there yet, but he will get there. Then you're into, do we play Ekatike left? So one of the gripes I have with the business we've done is we haven't really provided enough competition in some areas, where in midfield I feel like we're almost overloaded with number 8s, but we've no right winger. And again, theoretically, we could talk about Chiesa being the right wing option, but you and I know that the manager hasn't trusted Federico Chiesa to be an option to start. Billy said, yes, Craig, you've said many times you love visiting the US. That here in the US made me laugh. Well, it made me laugh for a different reason, because I often highlight America and American media and American fan content as being unaccepting of failure and being far better at calling out underperforming stuff than we are over this side of the water. So that's what made me laugh about it, because in my head I was thinking, you're talking about in America, but I admire American media that they actually do press coaches and clubs and players on underperforming shit and not let it go. Whereas I think over here at times there's almost too much pats on the back or fear of being removed from the press room. So yeah, that's what made me chuckle about it at first. Also, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to have a bit of a deeper conversation on Johnny Heidinger for the last few minutes, because we lost Johnny Heidinger to the Ajax job, and obviously we brought in Giovanni from Bronkhorst, and I wonder, is that loss of Johnny Heidinger maybe a bigger thing than we're really thinking out loud, because we certainly were different last year than this year, and we're all trying to figure out, is it the change of personnel? But a change of your assistant manager is a pretty big thing, and Johnny Heidinger is obviously a good coach. Henry said, out of the 5 games, Craig, how many do you think we win realistically? So hard to say with Palace game, at the best of times, even a good form. Like I said, difficult one to guess how strong either manager goes. Aston Villa, they're in a good vein of form. They just beat Manchester City. They're going to be full of confidence. But we're at home, and you would hope that would carry us a bit. Real Madrid coming up is going to be one of those games where we step up and we do start to find solutions, or we're found out and it gets messy. So between the Villa game, the Real Madrid game, and the Man City game, I'm probably expecting 4 points. I think we'll lose at the Etihad. I think we'll draw with Real Madrid at Anfield, and I think we'll beat Aston Villa. But if we lose to Aston Villa and then we lost to Manchester City, I mean, that's a lot of losses in very quick succession again, even if you throw in maybe a League Cup win and a decent result against Madrid. Where were we? So Dre said, "You've completely skipped my super chat because I've asked a critical question." So I haven't, as I'm sure you're aware of by now, mate. I'm not sure if you know this, but I worked through the super chats in the order they've come in, and you will notice that I hadn't addressed the super chats before or after. And why would I skip a question about me putting a bet on? I mean, I really find it's a weird point you're trying to make, that because I put a bet on for Salah to score, I suddenly stopped being critical of him. I don't understand what you're trying to say, mate. Honestly, I don't. And you said you put your parlay came before the interest of the club. How do you come to that conclusion? Seriously, mate, how does me putting a bet on, but a bet which, by the way, I fucking won, how does that come before the interest of the club? It's a magnificent hoop you're trying to jump through there, bro. And again, you're wrong. You've been pretty much wrong about everything you've said so far, because I haven't skipped your super chat. I got to it, and now I'm working my way back to the list of other super chats, you entitled little prick. Does that work for you? Because like I said, Dre, you're wrong. You've been wrong. You were wrong. You are wrong. Wrong. So, again, try not to be so arrogant when you're a dumb fuck. Okay? Because you're making assumptions that are just way out there based off your own insecurity. You skipped my super chat. No, I didn't. I read your fucking super chat. Maybe I just didn't read it as quickly as your impatient ass wanted me to, but that's on you, princess, not me. But you just keep sending me money, and I'll just keep reading them out whenever the fuck I feel like it. Does that work? And you know what? I might just stick another little bit on Salah again midweek just to wind you up. Because you know me, I love putting myself before the club. Do you think, now ask me this, Trey, do you think the club put themselves before me? Because when I was getting threatened with being beaten up by season ticket holders and the club were told about it, nobody reached out to me, dude. Nobody gave a fuck about that. When I was getting bomb threats and threats getting shot up at my live show, club didn't give a fuck about me, dude. Club didn't reach out to see how I was. When my son was getting threatened to be raped by people in chat, nobody from the club reached out to me to give a fuck. So, again, mate, you know nothing. Shut the fuck up and sit down. My history of this football club and supporting it speaks for itself. Like I've said, whatever delusion you live in is your own and enjoy it. But you're embarrassing yourself at how wrong you've been about everything so far, including your super chat. Where was I? And by the way, the irony of what you've said is, if I go back to your first super chat, you said that Salah has been the most poor player in the team. So you're having a go at me for putting myself in front of the team while you're shitting on the player who has broken records for the club. But you're judging me on how I support it. So what? Because I'm not a ranting fucking arsehole like you, who wants what? Get Salah out of my club? Is that what you want me to be saying, mate? Sorry. Not happening. Sorry, David, I skipped this one. Nope, I skipped another one as well. Sorry, where are we? Mahmood, Harry, this one. Mahmood said, too many creative players in midfield. Simple ball wins. Harry said, what did you think of the refereeing in the United game yesterday? I generally thought it was awful. I'm trying to think, did I watch the whole United game, mate? I think I watched most of it. I don't remember thinking about the referee too much, to be honest with you, dude. So yeah, sorry, I can't give you a better answer, Harry, but I'll give you an honest one. I love how we're one of the most devastating teams on the counter attack, but we don't use that to our advantage. The slow build up doesn't fit the team right, and it's so clear. I think that's a really good point you've made, Blah. Um, yeah, I used to love when we. How many goals have we scored? The chances we created over the years from um, going from defending a set piece or a corner to going up the other end and scoring. One really sticks out to me, a goal we scored against West Ham where we were defending a corner and then we broke really quickly and went up the other end to score. So you're right. It almost feels like the Klopp chaos suited us because we were good at picking teams off on the counter. But when we're being so slow and lethargic and playing in front of teams, you're right. It's not giving us that opportunity to have those moments of chaos. Know Your Threat said, you've been saying this all along. Liverpool's form dropped off since February, March. Commitment wins games. Our players are too casual this season. No desire. I have. And I took flack for it, like I said. Because I know you can't just switch on and off form. You know? And you see it in games all the time. Or in a fight, let's say. Where a boxer is strolling through a fight, winning easily, and then they get in a bit of trouble. And then they can't turn it back around. Because momentum and psychology is important. And winning becomes a habit. Winning is a habit. And doing the right things is a habit. So that's why I was so firm last year in saying we shouldn't have let the standard slip as much as we did after we'd won the league. Feel like if we got Gay, we'd be playing a back three. I wonder. Yeah. Look, I like back threes. I don't think we have enough defenders to play a back three. But I could see a world with a back three where you said Gay, Canade, Virgil. I could absolutely see that. But I think you'd need 6 centre backs to play a back three. 2, Scott Raid said, we've lost 11 of our last 21 competitive matches. Yeah, it's not great. I swear some of the deleted messages are mad calling us glory hunters just because we're criticising players and managers. Yeah, so look, there's a lot I'd like to say about that type of mentality, but it will only land me in trouble. Anybody who thinks that they're a better fan for accepting mediocrity and belittling others is a simp. Simple as that. There's a difference between being supportive and just being a dog's body, or being supportive and just being naive. You know, having standards are important, and without standards, you don't win shit. So if people want to call us glory hunters, well, I waited 30 years to see my team win a league title, and I was still there, still here watching every week, still making content for the time I have been. So if waiting 30 years for a league title makes me a glory hunter, then I'm not very good at being a glory hunter. DD32010 said, thoughts on El Clasico. I thought it was a very good game of football. Very high standard. And it alarmed me about what we might come up against when we play Madrid. Yeah, I thought it was a good game. Who would you replace Slot with? Worried, said Will. Iriola is one name, Will, that would pop into my head, but there's still a risk with that because it's another big step up for a manager. You've got the whole Klopp thing, would you go back, wouldn't you? But I'm not lying when I say I haven't really thought about it, because despite all of my frustrations tonight, I'm not at the point of giving up on Slot yet. But I do need to see him do something different, and I do need to see a different level of communication of what's happening to the fans. Because it's almost an acceptance at the minute, and I don't like it. I'm not seeing enough fighting words. Nor do I see him really trying to take the flack off the players by a diversion like a Mourinho or something, who says something stupid just to kind of take some of the heat off the players. David said, I'm fed up with the side-to-side football. The movement is slow. The build-up play is all slow. There's one player with the pass, which is Dom. Yeah, and it's detrimental to us when teams are playing with a low block, because moving the ball slowly ain't going to help that. The detective said, need a more stable midfield three, able to win their battles and earn the right to play and protect us in transition. Verts in a 10 behind two forwards and let the fullbacks provide width. Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. Having two deeper lying midfielders who are there to shield, and yes, one of them maybe can be forward looking like Soboslai, Gravenberch or somebody alongside him, and then the 10 up front behind the strikers. I wouldn't be against that at all, mate. Itachi said, we're underperforming. Let's be honest, we missed Trent. Would we take him back under the new circumstances? Slot has no tactics. Isak and Verts came here to win trophies. Would we take him back? Again, I think that's a... I agree we're missing him. I do. But I'm also stubborn. And I don't like the way he left. And that hasn't changed for me. But I can't argue that we're missing him. And especially with regards to Mo, I think that relationship down the right-hand side is a big miss. Whitehammer said, Slot just isn't him, honestly. Believe it now. I'm starting to doubt more Whitehammer. But like I said, I've got another couple of weeks patience left in me, I think, before I'm at the pushing the panic button. And, you know, it'll take a lot for me to call for a manager's head. And I'm aware of the reach our channel has. And I'm aware of the influence it has. And I'm honestly trying to be composed about it and logical about it. But I slept on it and I still feel as annoyed as I did yesterday about not seeing any changes. So I'm not too far away from thinking he can't rescue it. We can't keep using Diogo's death as an excuse, said Eddie. Look, it's certainly a part of our season, but equally it can be used and spoken about as something to honour and something to win for, something to push us on. You know, do it for his memory. You can use it either which way, but either way, I'll never criticise anybody for mentioning it on either side because it is a huge thing. Anthony, how are we, sir? Said, hey Craig, is there a thought Slot was set on a 3-5-2? Makes no sense to play Kirkes and Frimpong in the current roles. Down a few centre backs to fit that formation, but something isn't right. So I'd love to say yes, Anthony, but we didn't even see it, mate, in pre-season. So if we weren't really seeing it utilised in pre-season at all, I struggle to think that was his plan. Now, what you've said makes tons of sense, especially with the two players that you're speaking about in the fullback or wing-back positions. If we did have the ability to play a 3-5-2 or something like that, the personnel would make a bit more sense to me, mate. So the only reason I'm going to say no to you is because we didn't see it at all in pre-season, and for that reason, I don't think it was the plan. Do you think the board needs to be quicker and make decisions about his future since the season is still early and many cups still to play? I think, look, I could understand the board going either way on it. I have my opinion, but I could understand the board thinking there's extenuating circumstances, and I could understand maybe them looking at underlying data that shows perhaps we've been unlucky in certain instances. They are knowing for being non-emotionally driven but data-driven people. So I'm not sure what way that FSG are going to react to it, because it's not a position we've really been in other than outside of the Hodgson stuff, where, look, it was clear he was going to he was out of his depth and the club are just in a shitty place. So I'm not sure what to expect from the owners. My gut probably tells me they'll give him the season. And again, I think I can understand that, even if I disagree with it. If we lose the next few games, I'm not going to be calling the owners out if they don't sack him. But, I can only give my opinion on what I see, and I'm not seeing much signs of us going in the right direction. Gaz said, United was in this position before, now it's your turn. So, Gaz, I'm trying to be nice with you, mate, over the last few days, because, there is a lot of snidiness in what you're saying. Make no mistake about this, Gaz. We are not what you were. We are nowhere near as bad and in as much of a mess as you were and maybe still are. So don't for one fucking second, dude, conflate me being nice to you with me gonna take your shit. Because we are so far clear of the mess you were in and maybe are in, and we are nowhere near that. We aren't going to go through 4, 5, 6 managers. We've just won a league title. Remember that. You've done fuck all since Sir Alex left, other than bounce around from one manager to another. And you've won a few games and you're getting ahead of yourself. So it isn't our turn because we are still going to finish above you. We have still got a much better squad than you. And you have one game a week to play now. And you were knocked out of the League Cup by fucking Grimsby. So get down off your high horse, Gaz. Because it's nonsense. If Slot goes, I want Luis Enrique from PSG. Thoughts? There's not a hope in hell. Luis Enrique leaves Paris Saint-Germain now to come to Liverpool. Why would he? And Gaz, I've defended you, by the way, from people who wanted you removed from the chat. So I just want to put that out there as well. I've defended you because I remember you coming in from where Adam is. But I'm not going to sit back and just let you keep taking cheap shots because you won a few games of football, mate. You lost to Grimsby in the League Cup. You're in no European competition. You have one game a week. And at our very worst, you've just about gone ahead of us for a couple of weeks. So, cool your jets. For my job, I know a nod and smile beats haters. I don't know what that means. Liam, sorry. Sorry, I'm probably gone over my head, Liam. Maybe you're going to kill him with kindness type of thing. I don't know. But I've no problem with people ever disagreeing with me, Liam. But a lot of the people who come in to either disagree with me or somebody else say, you're all this, but they never back up what they're saying with a counter argument or a counter position. And it's easy to just come in and go, you're shit, we're all shit, he's shit. But if you don't have a counter argument or you can't back up what you're saying, it is just hate at that point. But not on you, Liam. Just not really sure how to interpret what you've said, dude. Leo said, I'm a United fan with a stupid comment. I mean, look, mate, I was, gracious in our defeat to you and said, we probably deserve nothing from the game. And I always enjoy my interactions and banter with United fans because, banter's fun. But I think Gaz there is a bit delusional. In all honesty, he's getting a little bit ahead of himself. Safine. Oh, by the way, if I could ask a favour, if you can hit that like button for me, would really... And look, I know these are difficult streams. Every night before I come on here, I'm aware that this is going to be a tough couple of hours and that there's going to be disagreements and there's going to be heated conversations. And it would be easy for me not to do it. It'd be easy for me to just stick up pre-recorded videos and hide away, but I don't want to. Because I truly want to gauge how people are feeling and I want to understand if what I'm thinking is off or, if it's a similar feeling by my fellow fans. So I really do appreciate you guys sticking in and sticking with us, up and down, because it's easy to do streams when we're winning. But it's really difficult in these moments because we're all hurting. And sometimes we then hurt and we snap at each other. And I hate when us fans turn on each other. Would you be scared if Iriola came in that it would be a Graham Potter situation? So, look, any manager like Andoni Iriola who would be making a step up to a club like Liverpool, having gone like Rayo Vallecano, Bournemouth, it's always going to be a roll of the dice. Always. So would I have a concern that it might be a Graham Potter situation? Yeah, of course. Same as I did when Brendan Rodgers stepped up. You don't know. And for Arne, this has been a big step up as well. It's one thing winning league titles in the Netherlands with Feyenoord, but he came in and won a league title with Liverpool. But that's why it makes it even more confusing to us how we've gone backwards at the moment. But look, I do like Iriola, but yeah, you're right. There would be a concern that maybe there is, maybe there is a too big a jump there at that point. David said, as a scouser and supporter of this club for 49 years, I'm not there with Slot yet, but we have to come together as a fan base, and I truly understand the frustration. I'll give Slot the next few weeks. That's kind of where I'm at as well, David. Few weeks, yes. Whole season, it depends. You know, instability is one thing, but constant losses one after another, that just signals something more worrying to me, mate, than it being a temporary blip. Um, so yeah, I'm probably where you are, mate. A couple more weeks, see how we get on. Yeah. Zach said, burying a good friend of mine tomorrow. Not on the best mindset, so wish me luck, Craig. If Liverpool could sort their shit out now, that would be great. Mate, I'm incredibly sorry to hear about you. And, you know, David's burying his father as well tomorrow. So really, I'm thinking of you. I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. And yeah, if Liverpool could sort their shit out, that'd definitely help all of us, mate. But sincerely, condolences, condolences to the family of your friend as well. We are all thinking of you, mate. Roosba said we should get Ange to solve our defensive issues. That's like getting me to talk to you about healthy eating. Do you know what I mean? Ange to sort our defensive issues is like me telling a kid to eat their vegetables. Like it's you're not going to be believing that, are you? Kilo said, hi Craig, I'm basically there because he seems to have lost the players. There often is no coming back from that. Players only meeting signifies strife. So what was weird about the players only meeting or the Virgil meeting was it seemed to have its desired effect, but then it fell away again. Which, you know, I'm not against the players only meeting thing. And, you know, sometimes it is stuff you can say in front of a coach. And whether that's a clear the air thing or whether that's a point the finger thing, you know, we weren't in the room, so we don't know. But I at least do appreciate that he tried to do something, Virgil. Sarah White, how are we, Sarah? Said it's not just the losses, it's how we're losing. Totally lost for words. Similar, Sarah, similar to me. It's, you know, it's no shame in losing, but there is a frustration in trying the same things over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Safine said, Craig, if we end up second slot, I have three names in mind to replace Javi, Enrique, or Simeone. Simeone will probably not come to Liverpool unless he wins the Champions League with his club, though. I would honestly hate Diego Simeone to manage Liverpool. He's a football terrorist in my eyes, the way he sets his teams up. And I wouldn't want them. Enrique, great coach. Just don't see a way that you'd lure him away from PSG at the minute. And who's the other name on your list, bro? Xavi. I don't really know much about Xavi's managerial philosophy, in all honesty. I haven't really followed his managerial career, so can't really give you an honest opinion on that one. As a player, wow, what a player. Hello from Cyprus. Lovely to see you, my man. Hope you're well. Thank you for dropping in. Do you think VVD saw it coming because he kept saying it's going to be tough this year? I'm not sure if he meant, you know, there's a target on our back because we're the league champions, or if he knew it because of the change of personnel or something. I really don't know, but either way, he has been right, whatever the reason was. Cyclone said, to me, Robbo seems the better captain, more honest, and the players seem to trust him on the pitch. He's obviously been here a long time. I'll tell you what, Cyclone, hearing Andy Robertson's comments after the game yesterday, they meant a lot to me because I hear Virgil and the manager speak and I want to just punch the screen. But I hear Robertson speak and I actually feel and hear accountability and a frustration, which I think can be lacking at times. I'm going to try and find some of the quotes from Robbo because I think we might have some of them. No, sorry, I actually don't. But yeah, the ones from the manager Or from Robertson, I really appreciate it. It isn't good enough. The basics aren't good enough. The effort isn't good enough. That I appreciate Andy Robertson for that. Zach said, appreciate the kind words from you and the fan base of this channel. Best community on YouTube. Thank you, bro. Look, I'm blessed to have an incredible group of people that tune in every night and share this journey with me, mate, up and down supporting our club. Which is why I get really defensive with people like that clown earlier on who, thinks he gets to judge me or other people. And say we've got no class. I know my community, man, and they are the type of people that you've seen tonight who sincerely are feeling for you, because all of us will experience loss in our lives, and I wish I could give you a hug, Zach, because unfortunately I've had to attend funerals of two people I've grown up with that are my age that took their own lives and stuff, and I don't know what happened to your friend, mate, but I know that pain, and I buried both my parents as well as an only child, one through suicide, one from drinking themselves to death. So I'm really sorry, mate, and again, I appreciate your kind words towards the community. 3 months ago, opposition fans bricking themselves with their signings, now laughing at us deservedly after spending $500 million. So incredibly frustrating, said Ryan. Yeah, and like I tried to say, absolute legend, Keane. Keane sent me on the quotes from Robbo. Thank you. That's why yesterday, Ryan, on the watch along, I said anybody coming in to banter us, we deserve it, and that's why I had no problem taking the banter yesterday from opposition club fans, because we deserved every bit of it. So Andy Robertson and his comments after the game yesterday. This is some of what Robbo had to say. Like I said, if you just think they're going to show up and all of a sudden they're going to drop off, we're going to have to control, we'll just have to wait until we score. That never ever happens. This is my 9th season, and I think it's only happened once or twice. If we expect that, then we're in big bother. You have to fight for that control. You have to fight, first of all. You have to fight for the second balls, fight for the first balls, and to try feel your way into the game. Then the quality will come through. And also from Andy Robertson, they picked up so many second balls, and then the ball is in behind our back line and are running back to head the ball, which is so difficult as it is. We know how good a set-piece team they are. We've worked on the long throw-ins and everything. 5 minutes in, you can see the long throw-ins, and one of them we concede from. It's not good enough, and you play into their hands. See? That, please. That's accountability. That's somebody who knows the standards of the football club and isn't willing to accept anything less. That's why I went out of my way to say, yes, Andy Robertson, thank you, mate. Because that's not the fans need to stick with us bollocks from our captain. That's accountability. That's somebody who has been here through it all, who has seen us build to that success and has lived through that success, wanting to keep that success. And that's a man who's fought for his career. From being out of football, from having no club, no job, to finding his way to being at Liverpool Football Club for 9 years. Thank you, Andy Robertson, because that I can get behind. Mike said, Robbo spoke like a true captain. Exactly. Because he knows. He knows it's not good enough. And he's not looking for an excuse. He's demanding better. That's leadership. If we get Diego Simeone, I would support Tranmere, said David. Well, I said something similar yesterday. Somebody said, what's his face? Southgate. And I said, honestly, mate, I'll delete the channel if Southgate became Liverpool manager. Gary said, Slot seemed to spend a lot of the game last night moaning at the officials rather than concentrating on what was going on the field. He needs to get a grip of the situation. It seems he has no plan. Daniel said, Craig, you're such a great guy to listen to, even from Scotland. Appreciate you, Daniel. Look, I'm a hothead, mate, and I can get defensive at times. I'm aware of that. But I care a lot about this football club. And more importantly, I care a damn lot about our community. Because you've changed my life. And you've given me chances I never expected. So I'm always going to be here, be honest. And sometimes that honesty will come across harsh. Sometimes it might come across deluded. But I am being me. And I'm only ever going to give you my honest opinion. That meme guy said Robbo speaking like a captain, unlike our actual captain. The one thing with Robbo, which seems to be lacking, other than Soboslai, is he always puts in a full shift. Craig just joined. Is it possible to get a recap? We didn't really go through news tonight. In all honesty, dude, we just kind of spoke about our opinions of where we are, and what it might take for us to get to the point where we think it's time for the manager to go. What it might take for us to turn it around. Yeah, that's kind of been tonight's stream, mate. You know, it's been a little bit emotional at times. You know, some people disagreeing with others, some people, you know, talking down to others, me included, in the talking at people in a negative way. But I think it's a good thing to clear the air. And I wanted to come on tonight. And I've even gone on for longer. Like, we're 2 hours, 15 minutes into it now. Because I wanted to give people a chance to vent. Because I understand that frustration. I get a chance to vent here every night when I turn on the microphone. So tonight I didn't want it to be around me reading out news. I wanted to give people a chance to share their views. Boatkin said, Robbo's a true leader. I don't care who the skipper is. VVD and Salah have a lot to learn from. They seem so selfish at times. Fans are fuming at the minute. So I don't know about whether I call them selfish or not, but in denial, mate, is maybe what I'd say. It's easy to be happy when everyone's telling you you're great and you're amazing, and they're putting thrones in the middle of the pitch for you when you sign your new contract, and you know it's not hard to be smiley at that time, but real character was built when times are tough, and we're not like Mohamed Salah got to where he got to through absolute sheer grit, determination, and against the odds. So it's surprising me that we're almost going within ourselves at the minute and not standing up to be counted, because it's very rare we've seen a Liverpool team over the last 10 years become shrinking violets. And I don't like what I'm seeing from our captain in particular, because it's not taking accountability, unlike Andy Robertson. Batua Kane, excuse me if I've mispronounced, which I most likely have. Thank you for gifting 10 memberships, dude. That's very kind of you. So Stevie Door 5. Again, you've only come in to shit on people. Do you not have anything to say positive? No, of course you don't, because you're just another internet troll who doesn't have anything to add to a conversation but wants to feel superior to people. You're not. It's love, Craig. Been watching you since your 25k subs. You're a legend in your own right, brother. Ah, mate, I'm just a normal dude. You know, I'm just a normal fella, but football pushes my buttons in good and bad ways, you know. And I wish I was somebody, if Liverpool lost, they could just go to bed and not think about it. But honestly, I'm obsessive about it. I'm not saying that's a good thing. Bangkok Scouts channel said, I'm not giving up. I will let go only after Christmas. I can get that, man. I can totally understand that. Like I said, it is an individual thing, and if we won a couple of games, lost a couple of games, I'm okay with going longer as well. It just can't keep going in this direction of loss, 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 loss. Up and down I can understand. Mistakes I can understand. Teething problems I can understand. But you've said after Christmas, I'm probably 4 or 5 games away. But either way, we all want it to work. Adam said, Craig, you're the number one Liverpool channel for good reason. This is not just about football, we're a real community. 100%, mate. I'm not good enough at this to sit here and just give you my views for an hour and a half or 2 hours. I need a consensus. So we are a community, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's the word I want to keep ramming home here. We're in this together, through good or bad, and we won't always agree, but hopefully we can figure it out as a community. What's the best moment of your club? For me, um, probably Istanbul in my life, although the comeback against Barcelona has to be right up there. But Istanbul was the first, like, real top level trophy I've seen Liverpool win. Like, I've seen Liverpool win UEFA leagues, but that was special. But for some reason, the Barcelona comeback is etched in my memory as something I will take with me to my grave that night in that game, because you had Mo's t-shirt, would never give up. You had him unavailable. You had, I think, Firmino unavailable. You had players go off early in the game. We're up against the greatest player to ever lace up a pair of boots. And we turned it around and won 4-0. Like, that moment's going to live with me forever. I think I cried in a happy way, I think, on that stream. Right, folks. I'm going to say goodnight. Appreciate you all dropping in as always. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll have a video about 4:30, and then I'll be back on here at 8:45 tomorrow night. So yeah, appreciate you. Thank you all so much for coming in, sharing your thoughts. Whether we agree or disagree, I appreciate your time and your support. And I will see you wonderful people tomorrow. Have a good one. Much love to you all. And to the two gents that have funerals tomorrow, we'll be thinking of you. David, sincerely thinking of you. And Zach as well, mate. Much love to you both. We'll be